Noob School. Welcome back to Noob School's episode 134. Can you believe it? I've got a new friend today named Max Stewart. Max, welcome, Max.
Thank you.
Max is the new CEO, relatively new CEO of GADC, which is Greenville Area Development Corporation. And what that means, so I understand it, is you help recruit and expand good companies in Greenville County.
That's right, yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. So Max came from Bradenton, Florida. And how long were you there?
I was in Bradenton 7.5 years, working for what is called Manatee County's Economic Development Office. It's called the Bradenton Area GADC.
And same kind of
Same
situation?
kind of work, yep.
Okay. So now if someone's thinking about here or Bradenton, you'll say, well, it's so hot down there in the summer. I don't think I would go down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, of course. Well, we're really glad to have you here.
Thank you, yeah.
And we certainly think you've been smart to take that job because this is a pretty good place for people to move to. I think Bradenton's pretty good too, though.
It was a toss-up. It was a hard choice between, but it was a career move. It was a vertical career move. It was the next step up in my career path.
Good.
But it also was my wife's decision. You know, I've been asked to be recruited to other areas around the country, and she said, "I like Greenville."
Nice.
And so we took the trip up here, and we both said, "Yeah, I think this is the next move for us."
That's
and
good.
So we're here. So
Well, I live downtown, and so I meet people all the time, and I can't tell you how many people I've met, and I'm like, "Why did you move here?" And they'll say, "Well, we were driving to Charlotte and stopped here for I mean, literally, people stop and they'll go, "We like," and they'll stay here. So it's pretty amazing.
there's some wonderful quality of life assets we have here in Greenville County, and we saw the Reedy River Falls area.
Yeah.
We saw the hiking opportunities in TR. Great housing and sports opportunities for kids. Yeah, it's just a great community to be in.
Good. We're glad you're here. Well, we always talk about people's kind of where they're from and kind of follow their career up to today. And anything that you've seen along the way where selling, you've seen good selling, bad selling, how it affected, business in general. So all I know is you went to Central Florida. What about before that? Where would you grow up?
So I've been all over Florida.
Okay.
I grew up pretty much everywhere you can possibly imagine in Florida. I've been in Sarasota twice in my life. So before I-75 was a 2-lane road back when we moved to the Sarasota area. But I grew up in pretty much everywhere in Florida. Sebring was the last place I kind of went to high school.
Okay.
And then went to college at Auburn for 2 years and came back to Florida because out-of-state tuition got so expensive.
Okay.
And so I came back and graduated from UCF with a political science degree.
Yeah.
I started off as a computer science engineer, went to political science. It was a little bit more my style, I guess. After a couple of years.
Easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. So when you switched to political science, why did you pick political science?
Well, actually, it was really, I took an elective class
Okay.
while I was a computer engineer and just on basic diplomacy. It was a basic diplomacy class. And I started asking questions, talking to the professor, and my professor at the time said, you probably need to switch career tracks. You're pretty good at this, talking to people.
Yeah.
Political science is all about building relationships.
Yeah.
And so working through that, I said, I think I should switch. And then I got involved with what is known as the International Visitor Leadership Program from the Department of State and the World Affairs Council in Central Florida.
Yeah.
And we started building the program, and they asked me to come on and intern in the office. And then the next year, they asked me to be the program manager. And then 3 years later, I'm about to graduate college, and I am the executive director of the organization because the previous executive director retired. So here I'm 22 years old, running a nonprofit in Central Florida and bringing foreign dignitaries to the market.
Wow.
And so that was a great 10-year experience learning how to interact with people, really build relationships.
Right.
And that's, the heart of selling is just building a relationship with somebody and being comfortable with them and then being comfortable with you.
Well, so interesting. Computer science makes all the sense in the world if you like computer science, right?
Yep.
And I'm in the computer business, but I don't really like the science part of it. I don't code or anything. At what point did you figure out that wasn't the path you wanted to go down?
Probably when I got to the quadratic equations, like some of the math computations,
Yeah.
algorithms, like, this is not for me.
Right.
I'm not that kind of person.
Yeah.
And I thought I was. I was like, oh, I'll build up to this, I'll work on it. But, Fortran and some of those computer languages, I was like, I don't know if I want to do this
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
But then getting into political science classes and
Where
starting
you're-
debates
Yeah.
and discussions and theory
Yeah.
and, getting on the debate team and kind of figuring that process out, starts the process of how do you negotiate?
Right.
And how do you negotiate your position, in Congress? How do you do that? So that kind of got me into that building relationships, and I loved it. And so then I just decided to I was like, you know what? I really want to be more of in that relationship building space, not behind a computer all day,
Right.
trying to type code. So,
Well, I think it's a good lesson though for the sales people and the new viewers is you try it. If it's not working, you can pivot. So
Yep.
it's easier to pivot when you're young than when you're older, but you can nonetheless pivot. And you found something that was much more amenable to what you're doing so well now, which is meeting people, building relationships, trying to negotiate, get people to move here, right? That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I'm telling you, I promise you, not that it makes any difference, but when I had to pick a major to go to college, I picked political science. I did not know what it was. I figured, well, I didn't want to do this one. I don't want to do this one. I don't want to do this one. I'll just do whatever that is. And a lot of electives, a little too hard. But I ended up liking it. I mean, I like the fact that you read something and then you have to give your opinion on it. I mean, I kind of like that versus the hard math of engineering. So,
when you watch, you watch some of the debates and the rhetoric, but you really you see all those congressmen and representatives. But when you really get down to it, they're having to negotiate on bills and really work together.
Yeah.
And behind the scenes, it's a completely different story.
right.
And so that's where we learned those skills of how you kind of debate and negotiate, because we're essentially working with established businesses and businesses that want to expand here,
Right.
negotiating how they fit into this community.
Right.
And so we're making a kind of bet from our side, from the county's perspective, and the company's also making a negotiated bet on their side and see how we can meet together,
Right.
and where it comes in. So that's kind of that's how we build that relationship, and that's worked pretty well since then.
So just to dumb it down a little bit, the area you're in is you're recruiting businesses to move to the area that you work for. So when you had a great experience in college, it sounds like, when you switched to political science and you got really into it.
Yeah.
What did you morph into first, business-wise?
So we got into I spent about 10 years working in that kind of political science, more diplomacy phase.
Yeah.
And then the state of Florida has an office, Department of Commerce, and they had a position open on their international trade team and foreign direct investment. And I worked in that space on the west coast of Florida for about 4.5 years, kind of working with companies expanding overseas, selling their products abroad, but also foreign companies that wanted to invest in the U.S., mostly from the Americas. That was my area to cover. And so we had to help companies learn to sell overseas. And that's a whole different avenue and ballgame of selling, learning the foreign language, customs, cultures. What are your landed fees essentially for your product in a foreign market? So we worked with a lot of companies on that structure, how to get that really going.
So you're helping companies in your area, which was
The west coast of
Florida,
Yeah.
to export
Their products around the globe.
Wow, that's what a fun job.
And it takes a unique proposition, because you're an American company going into a foreign market.
Yeah.
What makes you, and it's the same thing, what makes the American product better than the foreign market product?
Yeah.
What makes their product better than yours? So you have to really build a relationship.
Wow.
And it's not a one-time deal. It's you're going back and forth, you're visiting them, they're visiting you, they're getting to know you. And so that's really key in the process, is learning to be open. Because that's the easiest thing. Once you get to that, you meet their family, you meet their friends, and you're selling overseas. That you need to know them as a person and a relationship to really get that sale going.
Can you give us a story, like one of your big wins doing that?
So we actually went to Chile. And Santiago, and we took a company in the Tampa Bay area with us, and it was a lady who had a small manufacturing business, but she had a lot of interest in the metal markets. She was a steel Her company did galvanization of steel products along those lines. And she went to the market, and she was meeting with all these different companies around the area. Chile is known for their steel industry. There's a lot of steel that comes out of that market. And she was having some trouble kind of connecting with one of the people that she was meeting with, because it was just very difficult for her. She was, language barrier, translation. And so then I just happened to notice on the wall there was a local, like the symbol for their soccer team. I'm like, oh, what's that? And I just changed the subject completely. And, oh, this is the soccer. And then she started going, oh, my kids play soccer in America, and they play for this. And they started talking about family.
Yeah.
And it changed the whole dynamic of the room. It changed the whole dynamic of the conversation. And so then we brought it back around to the product and said, okay, let's finish it. We got to go. We got to. Let's talk about the product. He's like, oh yeah. I just need this, and this. And she's, well, those are things we can input into the product. We're happy to do that. And so they've had a selling relationship, hopefully ever since. I haven't talked to her in about a year and a half or two, but just changing the topic, because negotiations weren't going good. They had already known about each other's product. They were comfortable with it, but really getting to know somebody. So that was the important transitional part.
Common ground.
Yep.
Yeah.
What makes the relationship unique and similar at the same time?
That's pretty cool. Now, Chile, do they speak Spanish? Speak Spanish. Okay. All right. Okay. So you were doing that. That was helping the companies there export, and then how long did you do that for?
It's been about 4.5 years there.
Okay.
On the Tampa Bay side, and then Manatee County, so it's in the Bradenton area. The president of their local economic development office, who as the state office, we work with them all the time. She called me and said, "Hey, we have this position open for a director of business recruitment for projects. Would you be interested in that?" And I said, "Yeah, let's do it." We had a very young family at the time, and we came down to the market and kind of lived in the Manatee County, Bradenton area, and I spent 7.5 years there working in local economic development at the county level, getting to really work with companies that were looking at the market and figuring out what our unique value proposition is. Where there's hundreds of counties around the country, and there's 5,000 economic development offices around the country, all selling a proposition of this is the community to be in. How do we create a unique value proposition for Manatee County, and what does that look like? And for us, that happened to be aviation, the aviation sector.
Okay.
We had a small commercial airport called Sarasota Bradenton International Airport.
I've flown in there.
And it's just a boutique airport. It's kind of like the same thing as GSP here. And they had a lot of land at their airport. And we said, let's start a plan to figure out how to get more companies here, because you're not going to build any more runways. Let's find a way to create some manufacturing operations, some repair service operations. I have a background in aviation as a pilot, but also from my dad was in the Air Force, I was in the Air Force, so we kind of had that relationship. And I said, let's figure something out. And so it took us 5 years of infrastructure work. At the airport, they had to do a lot of work in the infrastructure phase. But then we could go start selling the airport as a aviation ecosystem for companies. And so that was a unique experience to basically create something from the ground up.
And so what else happened at the airport once you did that? Did people manufacture there or store planes, or what did they do?
So it was just a commercial airport, and it was 2018, so there were 30 direct flights there, 29 direct flights, and we had about 140 acres of open space on the airport. And they were looking for an MRO facility, a maintenance, repair, and overhaul facility. Take a corporate jet and refurbish it. There are a lot of corporate jets that fly in and out of Sarasota, and so they were looking to do that. And we got all the infrastructure work done, and we started going to the Farnborough Air Show, the Paris Air Show, MRO, all the big air shows, and just meeting people and building relationships. And the last project that I did just before I took this job was we landed a company called Pilatus Aircraft,
I know them,
which makes a single engine, big cabin airplane. They're going to open a MRO facility and then a final assembly facility at Sarasota Airport. So the culmination of 7 years of working selling the abilities of this aviation ecosystem. We landed a big OEM.
Yeah.
In the
That's like one of the safest planes, isn't it, the Pilatus?
one of the safest planes to fly, and
Yeah.
one of the easiest planes of its size to fly too.
Right.
You only need one pilot.
Right.
So
Right.
it was a great win for the community, but it was a partnership. It was a lot of people collaborating.
Was
together.
Donaldson fall within your
Yep.
county?
Yep. Donaldson, GMU, and GSP all are in Greenville County to some extent.
Yeah.
So
I mean, Donaldson has a lot of that, doesn't it? A lot of.
I was able to tour the F-16 facility, Lockheed's, and this is the only place the F-16 is made
Wow.
in the United States.
Wow.
And refurbished on its level. And Donaldson is a beautiful facility. And the Lockheed facility there is bar none, one of the best manufacturing facilities for jets.
Cool.
So it's a really unique proposition for us.
You got a lot to work with. So you were there, successfully there, and then you came here. That's the next thing. Okay, and that just happened July?
Just July of this year. Yeah.
Okay. And who made the call? Who called you?
I got a call from a recruiter.
Okay.
Knowing a couple of recruiters, I actually got a call, and that's where my wife kind of came in the story. We loved the west coast of Florida. It's a great experience. We were kind of raising our kids there,
Yeah.
and I got a call. The background to the story goes, I got a project that we were working on, and the project was looking between our area, Manatee County, and the Upstate here in South Carolina. I hate to lose, and I hate to lose really bad.
Yeah.
And so last year we had this project come through, and I think the project ended up in Anderson County, but we lost the project. They said, we're going to South Carolina. They offered us this. And I was really mad because I don't like to lose projects.
Yeah.
And so I learned everything I could about the Upstate area,
Yeah.
about the business incentives, the business climate here, who's here, Michelin, BMW, Lockheed, all these big companies, Bosch and Lomb, all these big companies have offices here. This is a community that swings way above its weight in terms of landing large projects.
Right.
And so I learned everything I could and spent the next 6 months benchmarking what we did against this community and some other communities. And so lo and behold, in April of this year, I got a call from a recruiter that says, hey, we have this opportunity in Greenville, South Carolina. Are you interested? And I said, yeah. And so went through the whole interview process, working with the board of directors. And here we are today.
Yeah.
We got offered that we came up here in June, visited the city, just got a chance to walk around, see the community, and we loved it.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. We're glad you're here. And it's a good sales lesson, I think, is that you did lose a deal to this area, and instead of sulking about it, you learned everything about it.
Yep.
And that probably helped you get this job.
I knew what I was walking into before I got here.
Yeah.
I was pretty informed about the process. Culture is always, that's a different story, learning
Right.
about the culture and the people. But as a CEO coming into the market, the welcome that we've had here has been phenomenal.
Good.
Everybody's reached out, said hello, want to help, I want to be involved.
Yeah.
If you're coming into a market as a new CEO, and then what does that say about if we're going to recruit another company to the market? So making sure that our community is welcoming, and
Yeah.
it is welcoming. It's one of the most welcoming communities I've been to. It's almost a little too welcoming sometimes, but it's been great because the people have been. That's what I'm going to recruit another CEO here. I want them to have the same experience I had.
Yeah.
And so we want to make sure that that always happens because
Right.
they at least feel like they're a part of the community and are engaged,
Yeah.
and not having to push their way in or try to find a way. We just open our arms up to them.
Yeah. So let's talk about how this works, because I was a little confused until we talked beforehand. Just so people need to understand, you're in charge of recruiting companies. This would be like, in my basic memory, BMW was kind of a big deal.
Huge
A long time ago, though.
Long time.
How long ago? 30 years ago?
It's been right around 30 years. Michelin has been here 50 years in Greenville County and 35 for a corporate headquarters. And BMW is right around the same time, about 30, 35 years.
Okay.
So
We recruited, I guess, our governor and somebody from Greenville County area, maybe a delegation of them recruited BMW here. And BMW now makes more cars at that facility than anywhere in the whole world.
that's right.
That's
Yeah.
unbelievable, more than Germany.
because they're in Spartanburg, so the groups got together. So the mayors of both Spartanburg and Greenville got together. The government leaders all got together, and they really recruited BMW to come here back in the late '80s, early '90s, that time period.
Yeah.
And they haven't looked back since. The number of companies that have come over as a result of BMW and Michelin being here.
Yeah.
There are so many feeder companies here that work with those two companies.
Right.
And so those are legacy projects. Those aren't just generational. Those are legacy. We're thinking, many, many years out with those.
Yeah.
Those are big wins.
Yeah, another thing it does, as you well know, but it legitimizes you. Mm-hmm. So, BMW has moved here, North America. Michelin's North American headquarters. It's like, oh, okay, we'll take a look.
Yep.
Right?
That always helps when you have, Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies in your area that are big corporate headquarters.
Yeah.
In this region, if you look from Atlanta to Charlotte, there's a number of those.
Yeah.
And so we capitalize on that because we're right in the middle of that Charlanta region. So.
Charlanta, yeah. And your primary method of recruiting these companies, tell us about how you go about finding them, screening them, contacting, and then what we can offer to get them to come here.
Yeah, we have a really unique sales funnel. Actually, we've been putting together a really cool sales funnel of what it looks like. And so we are in charge of recruiting really targeted sector companies.
Okay.
So we're very specific with what we go after. Advanced manufacturing, mobility, which is aviation, aerospace, automotive, life science, and then professional technical service. And those all encompass corporate headquarters. The process begins with one of four places. A company might call us directly. A site consultant who does national site searches for companies might call us. Department of Commerce might call us, or the Upstate Alliance might call us. Or somebody might have a friend that's, hey, I've got this company friend of ours that wants to move here, or is looking at the market. What can we do? And we put together essentially a community welcoming tour for them. We make sure we have the assets they need. We're not going to go out and tell somebody this is a great market for you, but we don't have, we can build you a 1 million square foot building. Well, we don't have the assets for that. You go to Spartanburg for something like that.
Yeah.
So we really are very specific with what we recruit. High wage, high skill jobs. But we also make sure that we have the labor force because we don't want to have to recruit hundreds of people to move to this county as well. That's a huge undertaking.
Right.
So if we have the population here that's skilled, we can handle their output of employees.
Okay.
So we're always introducing them first to Greenville Technical College, to the CMI Center for Manufacturing and Innovation, over at CUI Cars facility, or Greenville, the public school system, the CTE at the Innovation Center at Roper, just showing them the assets that they can build their company from this market. Because it's going to take them a couple years to build the building, build the land. Then we can equip their workforce while they're doing that process. So we meet with them, show them the area, show them the assets we have here, and then say, this is a great market. What do you think?
Yeah.
And they usually go back home and then go, okay, we're going to narrow it down to 3 markets and do a follow-up tour. And that's where we introduce them to the mayors and some of the other people. So the first one is kind of that under the radar tour.
Yeah.
And the second one is more, we make more of a concerted effort with our, elected officials, government agencies. How am I going to get water, sewer, power to a building? These are my needs. Can we get this done? And then they get a more comfort level with the market.
Okay.
And then we go into the negotiation phase.
Okay.
And they say, we are going to bring X, Y, and Z to the market, or we're going to take over a building. This is what we're going to do. And then so we have the ability, because the GADC is authorized by the county to negotiate incentives on behalf of a company. We have the ability to work with the company on that process. Okay, if you do this, we'll do this. If you do this, we'll do this.
Okay.
Everything is performance-based.
Yeah.
So there's nothing that we're doing we're not giving a company money to come here. It's you do this and we'll give you this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's something that we talk about with the community is they think, oh, we hand money out. No, we don't hand anything out to anybody.
Yeah.
It's all performance-based. You have to meet these performance
So
goals.
you break ground, this happens. You hire 500 people, this happens.
Yep. Hire, and then we'll help you with the hiring process.
Yeah.
We'll get the community involved. So it's really an interesting thing because, like I think, like you were saying before, we don't actually own any of the things we're selling. The money is, we're not giving them money, we're giving them a discount on their
Right.
property taxes, and we're also helping them with a workforce that we're not training ourselves, so we're
Right.
helping somebody else do that. So it's a very unique sales proposition.
Yeah.
But it comes down to really three things that we talk with the company about. It's availability of land,
Yep.
infrastructure,
Yep.
availability of workforce,
Mm-hmm.
and will my employees like living there? Mm-hmm. And I think we've covered we both like living here. This is a
Yeah.
great place to
Yeah.
live. Can we train their workforce? That's usually that's a big sticking point for a lot of these companies. Can you train the workforce in the time?
Yeah.
And do we have the availability of the site?
Well,
So that's where we get into this. That's where we really get into the negotiation part of the sales process, is going through those steps. And then we bring the state in to help with some of the final negotiation points.
some maybe tax.
Yeah,
Things or-
some higher level tax things that we can
Yeah,
do. But
yeah.
most of that is very basic to the qualities that we're looking for in the company. We're looking for a company that's going to provide a great benefit to the community, because we have an
Yeah.
ROI to meet, we have
Yeah.
a threshold to meet, but also is this a company that is going to stay here for a long time? Is it just a in and out in 5 years and gone? Or
Yeah.
are they making a legacy investment
Yeah.
in the community? Just like Michelin, just like BMW.
Yeah. Yeah. It's wonderful. Wonderful. Well, it's great what you do. And I hope I can think of someone to recommend at some point, some company that might want to move here. It'd be wonderful. Love to be helpful.
That we love to hear from anybody.
Yeah.
If there's any unique ideas, our big focus now, and we talked about like kind of the professional and technical workforce. Greenville County is transitioning from a purely manufacturing distribution to an advanced manufacturing, professional engineering, technical workforce. We're seeing that slow shift. Just like in the 70s when textiles was going down, and then
Yeah.
Michelin and BMW came in the market
Yeah.
to kind of do manufacturing. We're starting to see that shift. It's
Yeah.
not a small little community anymore. This is a growing area, and we're going to have to start working on our white collar, professional workforce.
Yeah.
And those are the type of jobs that we really want to attain, those high skill, high wage jobs for the community.
Would like tech companies be in your sweet
Yep.
spot? Computer science, computer software companies?
Yeah, we just had startup Greenville last week,
Yeah.
the Next Gen Summit, meeting with small entrepreneurs. That's the next big niche, is really growing it from the home base right here.
Yeah.
So working with them, and the Next Gen community did a huge event, Matchmaking Day, which we worked with them on that. But it's getting those companies together with founders and funders in the same room,
Yeah.
and really talking about how can we grow each other. And so that's the next phase of iteration for us, between us and the city, is that founders and funders startup tech companies here in
Yeah.
the area.
Well, you know Scott Millwood and Shay Hauser, so that's a good start,
Mm-hmm.
because they're helping do that too. And one little successful tech company can get really big. So hopefully you can find some more of those.
Love to have one of those in this community.
Are you using the AI tools at all for searching for companies?
We have a very unique niche of companies. So we use a couple other tools that are on the market.
Okay.
There's a couple international tools that are out there with company databases. But we look for a very specific size company. We know we're not going after the 1,000-person job prospect. We're looking in that 50 to 250 range job company that's got so many. So we're using a couple tools like that. The majority of what we use AI for right now is when we're doing that targeted marketing in
Yeah.
those markets where those companies are,
Yeah.
is putting together the value proposition, the ads, the pitch deck, those types of things for those companies.
Put together the first draft.
Yeah, let AI cycle that through.
love-
Here's what the companies look for, and so we're doing a lot of that right now with AI.
I mean, I used to before AI, I would get somebody to do the first draft for me. I would just tell them what I wanted, and then they would do it, and then I would take it from there.
Yep.
Now I don't need them.
Yep.
I can it's just amazing. 2 seconds later, there it is.
Yep. And so we're doing that for the first step.
Yeah.
But really, when it gets into the data, the data decision, our research team handles all that to get
Okay.
that done. But yeah, getting the first deck out there, that's the easy part
Yeah,
of an AI.
get it going. And then social media wise, what are you doing on social media to attract companies?
So we have been, I would say, less active on social media as an before I joined the organization. And I actually gave our team hey, we need to be more engaged out there and start sharing unique and new content.
Yeah.
It's a process. It takes time to get everybody together, but we shared a post about the inland port in Greer and how long this port is, and just driving through it. And we did it was a 15-second video, but we said, this is a unique asset we have here in the upstate area.
Yeah.
And we shared that on social media. Got a lot of views and I think I got a couple thousand impressions, which is more than we've had in a while.
Yeah.
But we took that same post and targeted it to different markets that we're looking at. And so that's how we're going to start using social media.
Good.
A lot of targeted digital efforts, looking at other markets around the country where we have unique value propositions for them.
Huh. Well, certainly seems to be working. All the content, moving it around stuff. That's what pretty much all I do with my businesses is create content and put it out there, and hopefully attract people that are interested in the content.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you a couple of quick questions. These are very important. Favorite all-time book?
I read The $1 Trillion Coach.
Yes.
Bill Campbell's.
Bill Campbell.
Bill Campbell's book, and
Yeah.
with Eric Schmidt did the foreword.
Yeah.
I read that book last year, and it's become one of my favorite books.
Okay.
I also read the first 90 days by I forget his name, but when you're becoming a CEO or leading a C-suite effort, the first 90 days is a great book to read. I'm in day 83, so I'm almost to the end of the steps.
Yeah.
But I really like The $1 Trillion Coach. That book was really,
Yeah.
that book kind of influenced me in the last year and a half to 2 years.
So, Bill Campbell was a football coach. My understanding, he was a football coach mainly, and he went to Silicon Valley. Maybe he worked for somebody, HP or somebody. But anyway, he ended up being so loved because he was so different than everyone else. He was just he wasn't fancy. He was a football coach. Ended up being the coach for Steve Jobs, right, and Ellison and Schmidt.
Yeah.
And he didn't charge any money.
Nope.
He was just like the guru, like Yoda.
Yeah. He has some great relationship building.
Yeah.
Everything really is about relationships for
Yeah.
him. And I saw that throughout the book. And I said, that's something I want to emulate in my job. But The $1 Trillion Coach is now up at the top of my list.
Well, I'm going to go back and reread it because I can't remember all the great things that he told these guys to do. I took kind of the big picture away that he must be an amazing guy. I took those football principles to Silicon Valley. It's pretty cool. Favorite word?
Lately, it's been intrinsic.
Okay, intrinsic.
So I think
that what means coming from within.
Yeah,
Okay.
intrinsic value. What
Yeah.
is the value of that? So yeah. So,
Like Greenville would have intrinsic value.
yeah. From value, we as a community, it's intrinsically in the area. We already know it's here. It's already the values within.
An extrinsic value would be come here and someone's going to pay you a bunch of money, or would that be like?
Yeah, that's kind of but I've been using intrinsic, I don't know, a lot, I guess, in the office lately. I think I've seen it somewhere online. So, but.
Well, that's okay. And then most importantly, favorite band.
Oh, man. Oh. Well, we are in Greenville, so I could say Edwin McCain.
There you go. There you go. You've seen him twice. You told me.
I've seen him twice. I do like Foo Fighters and a couple of the other bands in that market, but that gets my bit.
Yeah. Edwin was roommates with my brother for a little while, the brief time he was in college in South Carolina, and he would go in front of this pizza store in 5 Points and play his guitar for tips. And the pizza guy says to him, and he says, if you come inside tonight, play inside, I'll give you $75 plus beer. And Evan says to my brother, he goes, I'm quitting school because I do not need school. I am a professional now. And so that was the beginning of his professional career.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So is there anything like promoting GADC or any way to contact you if they have questions? What do you recommend?
So the GADC is, we are a public-private partnership of the county.
Okay.
And if anybody wants to learn more about what the GADC does, go www.gogadc, Golf Alpha Delta Charlie.com.
Okay.
and they can kind of view what we do and see the upcoming, what we have. We are always looking for great talent on our team.
Yeah.
So we are looking for, existing industry people that have experience and want to network with companies.
Yeah.
Research is a big part of what I want to do with the organization, data analytics.
Yeah.
So those types of things, we're always looking for great talent. But, that's really just sharing the story.
Okay.
We are all part of this together. And if we're all working together, to recruit great companies here, but also to retain great companies.
Yeah. Yeah.
These startups that grow, that's important to us. So,
Well,
yeah.
we are glad you're here. You're a good example of somebody who found what they loved in college and have been sticking with it ever since. You keep moving up the ladder, and we're glad you found your final spot here in Greenville.
I hope.
Thank you, Max.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
All right.